Hello, my name is Richard Moore, and I'm the UK Political Director in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. I'm a diplomat. I've been a diplomat since 1987 when I joined the Foreign Office, and I've done, as you always do in a diplomatic career, a range of jobs in London and overseas. I'm a Turkish speaker, and I've done 2 postings in Turkey, including as our ambassador to Turkey between 2014 and the end of 2017. I've also served in Pakistan, in Malaysia, and very briefly in Vietnam. And that's a very normal pattern, it has to be said, for somebody in my profession. And I'm here today in New Delhi, visiting India. I am ashamed to say that the last time I was in the Indian capital, I was an undergraduate. And as you can see by looking at me, that is several years ago. I was here in the early 1980s, and I was doing at the time one of the papers that I studied at Oxford. Of the 8 final papers that I did in my exam, one of them was on South Asian politics. I was fascinated by this part of the world, and I was lucky enough while I was at Oxford, as you can imagine, there weren't too many people nearby my college who knew the subject in depth. But I was very lucky. I was sent to a young postdoctoral student at Nuffield College, and his name was Swapan Dasgupta. And I believe he's gone on to greater things, both in journalism and as a political columnist. And I'm very much looking forward to catching up with Swapan on this trip. Now, what does a political director in the British Foreign Office do? Well, I'm, if you like, I guess, the kind of chief diplomatic advisor to the British Foreign Secretary. I cover quite a range of subjects. I probably am used as a troubleshooter quite often. So where there are issues of conflict and instability, I'm afraid I get drawn towards them. So I spent a lot of time, for example, on Iran and our policy around Iran. I spend a lot of time on the broader Middle East and North Africa. But I also have a particular focus on South Asia, some of the rather difficult issues that sometimes we encounter around Afghanistan and the search for peace in that country. But also the relationships with the other countries of South Asia, of which, of course, India is by far the biggest and most important of our partners. So it's fascinating to be here. People often ask me, as Britain goes through the rather prolonged process of Brexit, and I have to ask for patience from our friends, because it has been a drawn-out process. But it is one that the government that I represent is very determined to bring to a close with the deal and to exit the EU by the end of this month, that's October, depending on when you're watching this broadcast. But of course, we spent a lot of time thinking about the sort of Britain that we want to be after we leave the EU. We've been in the EU for over 40 years, and clearly that has influenced the way in which we've looked at the world. But as we look forward, we're very keen to remind our friends and partners across the world that just because we're leaving the EU for our own particular reasons doesn't mean to say that the UK is turning its back on the world. Far from it. We are an intensely internationally focused country. We're very proud to be members of organizations like NATO, the G7, the G20, which of course we share with India, the Council of Europe, and of course the Commonwealth, which is of great importance to us. And so we would very much, I think, see ourselves as playing a role on the world stage. The UK is not a superpower. We have no pretensions in that regard, but we are a global power. We have global interests, and that is because the challenges and opportunities that any country that wishes to make its way in the modern world, the world of 2019, you have to be active in the world. I used to play a lot of hockey as a young man, And I guess I'm saying you can't defend on the goal line. Both the threats come to you if you are not active, for example, in the field of counter-terrorism. Some of the work that the UK has worked with other partners to counter the ideology and actions of Daesh have been part of that, because that terrorism comes to us. It comes to the streets of our country. And in 2017, we were reminded of the price of that. So we'll remain extremely active as we go forward from here. And we will be of course, very keen to promote the values that we stand for. And when I talk about that and values, sometimes people, when I say that we'll kind of champion the values that Britain stands for and that we'll try to be a force for good in the world, people sometimes think that that is a kind of a statement of imposing of values. It's very much not that. We will make the case for the things that are important to us. The freedoms, the democratic freedoms that we enjoy in the United Kingdom. Media freedom is a good example, where we held a major international conference in the UK this summer to promote that. We think that any healthy society has to have a free press. It's really important that people are able to speak their minds. If you're going to have a genuinely entrepreneurial class, they must be allowed to think out of the box and be creative. And part of that is having the challenge that a free press brings to you. So that is just one example, if you like, of the type of value that we will continue to promote. We're about to have a major summit in London on the prevention of sexual violence in conflict. Again, that feels to us to be a really important issue to stand up and be counted on. Far too often, unfortunately, women in particular, although it's not exclusively women, men also are caught up with this, but predominantly women become the victims on the battlefield, and those appalling violence is visited upon them, including sexual violence. So we want to try and make that a taboo in conflict. In the same way, we have stood up very clearly against the use of chemical weapons, whether that is on the battlefield in Syria, where we actually took action militarily against the Syrian regime when they used chemical weapons, or it's when another country, in this case Russia, uses a nerve agent on the streets of one of our towns on Salisbury in order to try and murder two Russians, and in the act of doing so did end up murdering a British citizen. This type of thing is the sort of thing we feel very strongly and we will continue to stand up against. So let's come to India. It is fantastic to be here. I'm always really excited by India. I'm fascinated by the country, and it is a great opportunity for me to come here and talk to Indian friends and partners about how they see the world, how they view issues from everything from the rise of China and the issues associated with that, through to the extremely pressing issues of climate change, where it's refreshing to be in a place where the impact of climate change is recognized, the science is acknowledged, and where Prime Minister Modi is taking a leadership role, particularly around disaster management and climate resilience, in a way that the UK thinks we should be fully supportive of. So I think we'll be talking across a range of subjects here. India is an ancient and great power, but it's clearly a power also that is on the rise in the modern world. And therefore, I want to find ways, and my government wants to find ways, where we can partner most effectively with India. We won't agree on everything, of course not. Most countries have some issues on which they will disagree, but there are many, many things on which we can work together. And I expect us to have those conversations, which are often frank between friends, on those issues where we might not overlap entirely, but also to focus on those things where we can really make a difference together. So it's exciting to be here. I hope you found this talk interesting, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you.